What is going on, FA Nation? John Pembe here with Howard Bender. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS show. It is week 14 here, Howard. The one thing I like about the NFL DFS season is that it doesn't end like regular seasonal fantasy football does. Some people, maybe they already missed their fantasy football playoffs, weeks ago. Maybe they're on the come of their fantasy football playoffs beginning, but DFS runs through the Super Bowl. So we are here with you guys each and every week, breaking it down for you. Last week, obviously, I did the abbreviated solo show. Appreciate you all who tuned into that to get you ready for week 13. But we are here back full force. Week 14 on the menu here, Bender.
Yeah, I think when I did the DFS watch list, which is posted now at fantasyalarm.com, the first thing I said was, while the season-long fantasy community can stress about their playoffs and stress about Bimageddon too, it's a 10-game slate if you're playing on DraftKings. It's an 11-game slate if you're playing on FanDuel. Let's get it.
Business as usual. If you guys want access to all of our content over at Fantasy Time, we got a Cyber Week deal going on right now. Save 50% off the monthly subscription through 2026. That means that's right. All of next year's NFL DFS content, NFL seasonal content, MLB DFS, NBA, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, you name it. We cover it over at Fantasy Alarm. We get that for 50% off. $19.98 a month with promo code CM24. You can scan that QR code there on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/cyber to take advantage of this offer there and come join the family for 50% off through 2026. It's a good deal, Bender, right?
It's a great deal. Are you kidding? I mean, less than $20 for every single month for everything that we do. Draft guides, cheat sheets, access, everything. Come on. It's ridiculous.
Hard to beat. Let's get into the quarterback position. We go position by position. He'll build a lineup at the end of the show. Bender will even give you some FanDuel tidbits for those friends over on the FanDuel platform. If you want to hit that like, that subscribe, that share button, free way to support the work we do here at Fantasy Alarm. It helps out more than you guys can know. And leave a comment in the comment section. Bender and I are happy to help you guys out with your questions in our comment section as well. Quarterbacks, Josh Allen is $8,000 up at the top. Jalen Hurts, $78,000. Baker Mayfield, $6,400. Pricing kind of jumps down pretty quickly there after you get past Allen and Hurts. Top three QBs, all pretty good matchups here. I have to imagine your chalk is going to be Hurts at home against Carolina, though.
Yeah, that definitely has to be the play. No doubt about it there. I mean, listen, I don't mind Josh Allen. He's actually a little cheaper on FanDuel than Hurts. So, you could go either way with that. But, yeah, I think Hurts is going to end up being the chalk, for that, going up against Carolina. Although, I don't know, man, do we really want to jump in on Hurts against Carolina, knowing that Saquon Barkley's probably going to get a huge amount of the work, as will like Kenneth Gainwell?
Well, I think what you're almost banking on really is that Barkley will get his yardage, but then get tackled at like the 2. And then you get the classic 3-touchdown tush-push game out of Jalen Hurts, and all of a sudden, he's up there at 30 fantasy points. I agree. There's certainly some risk because of the idea that Barkley is going to be probably popular as well as your top running back spend up. Josh Allen has rushing touchdowns in 3 straight games. So, if you are looking for a quarterback with some rushing touchdown upside, Allen has that. Could be getting healthier at the receiver position as well. Keon Coleman walked through today. Dalton Kincaid went through the walkthrough today. So Allen against the Rams. Baker Mayfield off the injury report, was dealing with a little bit of an ankle there in that game last week. Home matchup versus Las Vegas, also super appealing. Mike Evans, Cade Otton, Rashad White makes plays in the passing game for them. So I think, any of those 3 plays obviously work. Mayfield, the considerable discount, but also maybe a matchup where we look to ride the running backs as well.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's kind of an interesting thing. I think if I'm paying up, I mean, yeah, it's a $1,400 differential between Baker and Hurts. So, if I'm paying all the way up, I'm going to pay up there. But I'll tell you what, man, rather than go with the Baker Mayfield play, which is definitely fine, it's solid, especially at that price, I might continue to look to pay down a little further.
Sure. Sam Darnold, $6,100. I have him in the quarterback coach. One of my favorite plays of the week, 3 straight games and 2 touchdown passes at home, going up against Atlanta. Sure, they have AJ Terrell on the outside, but we've seen Darnold make big plays with Jordan Addison lately. TJ Hawkinson had a big week a couple of weeks ago. Naylor sometimes finds the end zone for them. And of course, there's always Justin Jefferson. So Darnold at $6,100, not really moving his price tag at all, but paying it off, and almost 20 fantasy points down 4 of the last 5 weeks.
Yeah. And that's the big thing there. And he's nice and reasonably priced over on FanDuel as well. You got like Baker Mayfield's like over $8,000, and you're looking at Sam Darnold, and it's like, all right, you know what? For a few $100s cheaper, I might look in that direction. And then going beyond that, I mean, we've talked about Russell Wilson. You and I did Alarm Fantasy Football earlier. Russell Wilson going up against Cleveland. Yeah, I get it. Denzel Ward is a good, solid back, but a defensive back. But, Wilson's definitely been, he's been throwing the ball well. Pittsburgh has been moving and grooving. So I think that's definitely a possibility for us here as well. Other than that, man, I mean, I'm kind of, I'm looking down. Caleb Williams against San Francisco intrigues me a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then we start getting into like the cheaper aspects. Do you trust that Kirk Cousins can beat up Minnesota? We've talked about the fact that their secondary hasn't held in check. I got to figure he's probably going to be a little bit on the contrarian side, because 4 interceptions and a 0 burger again for Kyle Pitts, like stuff like that. When that happens, the community is ridiculously reactionary, and I can't even imagine that he's going to be utilized heavily at all.
I mean, 0 touchdowns in 3 straight weeks for Kirk Cousins here. Not what many people were hoping to see in Cousins' first year here in Atlanta. But if there was a reason to be motivated, it would be the return to Minnesota, and Minnesota's pass defense has certainly struggled. So I don't mind it. At $5,500, he's fine. He's in the quarterback coach this week. I like Will Levis at $5K going up against Jacksonville at home. Levis himself, couple of touchdown passes in 3 of the last 4 games. Fantasy point wise, at his price tag, you're getting 16 to 18 fantasy points, 19 there against the Chargers. Good enough at $5K, and certainly maybe a little bit more upside against Jacksonville here this week. As long as Nick Westbrook-Ikhine apparently keeps catching touchdown passes, Will Levis is going to have that potential there. And then I don't mind Aiden O'Connell. I've had a 4K quarterback and the QB coach the last couple of weeks with Bryce Young. He's come through. Aiden O'Connell last week on the road against Kansas City, 23 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns. Tampa Bay is a very bad secondary. Jacoby Myers, Brock Bowers, Aiden O'Connell, very easy to stack when your quarterback is $4,800.
I see your Aiden O'Connell, and I raise you one Derek Carr. You kind of jumped right over him. Here's the thing with Derek Carr. I mean, I get right. MVS is like, the Saints version of Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. You got a great pass catching back in Alvin Kamara. They don't have like a lot of grade. Dartboard look for you, John. See if the Saints end up signing Kevin Austin to a contract. They've used him 3 times. They brought him up 3 times now in a row from the practice squad. So they have to sign him to the big roster if they're going to want to bring him up again. Just something to look at there. Giants pass defense is atrocious, absolutely atrocious. And if you think that the Saints end up, having like a little bit of a back and forth here because it's Drew Lock throwing a Malik Neighbors against a weak Saints secondary, do we look at Derek Carr now that there's no concern of Taysom Hill being brought in inside the red zone? That's been one of the major detractors of using Derek Carr. But now you've got Derek Carr, MVS, Juwan Johnson, Alvin Kamara against a terrible Giants defense. Do you even give any thought to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you give him some thought. I also think this is sort of another situation where they just could very easily lean in on Alvin Kamara in this matchup as well. Mm-hmm. And sure, Carr could easily throw touchdowns at Kamara. He should have had one against Cleveland there. He just flat out dropped it. I think it was either Atlanta or Cleveland where Kamara just straight up dropped would have been a walk-in touchdown. So Carr can certainly benefit from the Kamara play. So I don't hate it at the $5,100. Again, I went to Levis and I went to O'Connell just for the better overall DVP matchups for them. But Carr certainly, again, I think the Giants are just shutting it down anyway. So perfectly fine going there. I also don't mind Tua. If you just want to scroll back up quickly, I had Tua, $6,300. Touchdowns over the last 3 weeks have been strong. With the passing yards has been great. This is a guy that's led the league. Passing last year and passing yards is on pace to lead the league in passing yards 2 years ago when he got hurt. Comes back and 288, 317, 365 the last 3 weeks here. Don't mind them at home against the Jets. Running backs. Barkley's 9K. Deservingly so. When you run for 255 yards, then break off for 100 and a score against Baltimore. Makes plays in the passing game. Super expensive. Going to be chalky. Completely understand why you get there. Achane and Kamara, I think, are both very interesting. And I like Alvin Kamara a lot just for the volume. The DVP rank for the Jets against running backs is a little surprising because they have struggled against the run this year. Achane, though, another monster in the passing tag. So I wouldn't fault anybody for spending up. And again, if you're playing a cheap quarterback this week, you can help yourself by paying up at a running back spot.
Yeah. I definitely listen. I love Barkley's 10K on FanDuel, Kamara's 9,200. So it's definitely it's tough to get it in there. I like Achane. I like James Cook going up against the Rams. The Rams are a very soft run defense, and we just saw Cook, break a nice big one against San Francisco in the snow. We know that he gets the volume. That he gets the work in the passing game as well. I think James Cook is a very viable option in this one. I think Kyren Williams is a viable option on the other side of that game as well. Buffalo definitely struggles against the run. The only problem that we've got with Kyren Williams is that he hasn't, what has he got? One touchdown since Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua came back.
Back-to-back weeks of rushing touchdowns, but he did have that spell there of 4 games without a rushing touchdown, and he wasn't really running the ball all that effectively. But the last 3 weeks now, 5.7, 4.5, and 6.9. And Buffalo, again, a team that struggles against the run. We saw that. Obviously, the snow game's a little different. Nobody had any traction, but any running back that San Francisco put out there were just running all over Buffalo in that game. So I do like the Kyren Williams call. Working our way down a little bit. James Conner feels like he should be better in this spot against Seattle than he was a few weeks ago, where he had just 7 for 8. Like that he's a better runner than that. I don't really understand why he only managed to do that. Did like the 5 catches, though, so I'd be more bullish on Conner bouncing back than what we've gotten out of Kenneth Walker. Bucky Irving is still too cheap if he's healthy enough to go. They said he feels better after the hip injury. 25 for 152. We knew he was going to have a good game against Carolina. I don't think we expected that, but he's clearly the workhorse back now in Tampa Bay. So good mid-tier pricing for him. And then I like Tony Pollard again. I like Tony Pollard last week. They never had a chance in that game. They'll have a chance this week.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Tony Pollard. I think that's definitely an interesting way to go. Scrolling further down there, there's really not for me, I'm not really digging this lower tier kind of guy. But if you're going to want to get Kamara or Barkley in there, do we not just go to Isaac Guerrero? Is Isaac Guerrero not going to be the chalk and cash games this time around? He's 5,200 on FanDuel, 5,200, and he's only 5,400 here on DraftKings.
My expectations are that he'll be the highest roster player on the slate.
Yeah.
And I'll even try to pull up the ownership that I'll update here after the show as well. So we'll get that Wednesday update for everybody. My expectations are, though, he would be right up there. I also don't mind Tracy either. Again, especially if we think Drew Lock can get that offense going at all. Tracy's a pretty decent option there with his ability to catch football, but we also know run the football there. Let's see.
Are we concerned about the usage of Devin Singletary? We saw it this past week, and Tracy's been fumbling the football more, so that's definitely been a problem. And Brian Daboll is not Brian Daboll is in a spot where he's probably expecting to be fired by the end of this season.
Yeah.
So does he give a shit about using a guy like Tyrone Tracy, or is he more inclined to use his boy Devin Singletary, whom he was happy to bring over from back in the Buffalo days?
No, Singletary still only got 20% of the offensive snaps there. So I would still lean Tracy. He gets the passing game work, still scored a touchdown against Dallas. So Tracy's still the play for me. I'm not too concerned about it. Okay. But to your point, Guerendo's still going to be the guy that everybody's just going to go gravitate themselves towards. So not too shocked there. All right. Other running backs, again, I like Rachaad White. I don't mind that play. Again, still as good as Irving was, still had 11 for 76 himself. So happy to still play Rachaad White if you want. You mentioned Gainwell. Is this just a blowout game theory play?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's Carolina, right? And so, yes, you can utilize the guys. And we talk about this all the time as far as, you know, if somebody's going to get blown out, they've got to score the points to get it done. So I'm not saying, no to, a guy like Saquon Barkley. What I'm saying is if you're a max lineup person, you're going to want exposure to Kenneth Gainwell, because if the Eagles do go up big and they're at home, I mean, I could totally see Kenneth Gainwell just running the football in that second half.
Sure.
And we've seen him get into the end zone before.
Yep. No doubt about it. All right. Any other running backs that you have interest in? You mentioned, Jonathan Brooks maybe starting to get some more.
No,
work.
I'm not looking at him.
All righty.
Well, not against the Eagles.
Okay. I guess if there's no Madison, you could look at Amir Abdullah again, possibly.
Could look at Amir Abdullah, Sincere McCormick. I mean, I think at that point right now, I mean, once you're going below Garendo, there's really not a whole hell of a lot to feel good about.
I'd agree. Jamal Williams looking like he's going to be. He was active, but I'm saying now no Taysom Hill. Maybe there's a value behind him there. Wide receiver. AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, your top two. Nakua Evans had a good week. Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp round out your 7K.
Yeah, I mean, you can go with any of them. I'm not gonna, that to me, it's about what you can afford. I love AJ Brown, but do we really see them, in a strong passing situation? Maybe they have a little fun with him and they do it that way. But I think Brown is a fine play. Jefferson, if you can afford him, is absolutely a fine play, especially against Atlanta, and they've been struggling, in pass coverage.
Sure.
I kind of like Puka Nacua a little bit more than I like Cooper Kupp this week.
Okay.
But again, I think we're splitting hairs at that point. I think when you start locking guys down, I mean, how do you not lock in Mike Evans?
Yeah. Again, 8 for 118 and a score. This is the Mike Evans we expected to see. Las Vegas, sure they have, some guys that maybe could cover, but I like Evans at 72. Neighbors at 69 against the Saints, got 13 targets, 8 catches against Dallas. I'll be all over that play again this week. Saints just really struggle. George Pickens continues to make some big plays, had a touchdown catch last week. And we saw what Cleveland gave up against Denver, gave up everything in that game. So you have there. I don't mind Drake London at 64. I really like JSN. Even if Metcalf plays, I'd probably go with JSN in this matchup against Arizona at $6,300. Seems like he's sort of taking that leap.
Yeah.
What else you like?
Yeah, it's about time. Like we were sitting there in the preseason being like, when's he going to surpass Lockett?
Right.
And it took a little while, but he finally did.
What else we got?
What else do we got here down at the wide receiver spot? You know what? I'll tell you what. I mean, as we scroll through it here, I'm probably gonna, the fact that Debo is at 5,900 is kind of humorous, just in the sense that we've talked about this before. When you're getting a severe discount on somebody, now I know he hasn't done anything over the last 3 weeks. So the question is when you're looking at like a run funnel defense like the Chicago Bears, do you think that Debo gets some gimmick work here now that it's not McCaffrey or Jordan Mason? It is Isaac Garendo. Does Debo get that little extra, that extra push? I think just because of the price, you have to give some sort of a consideration there.
Sure. And Jalen Johnson should be on Juwan Jennings in this game. So a little bit more beneficial to Debo in that spot. Like we saw Jordan Addison have the big game when Jennings was all over Justin Jefferson. So I could certainly see that being the case.
I like Ridley.
Yeah.
At 5,700 going up against Jacoby Myers as well. Like that's, I tell you what, man, that's kind of funny. I look at, let me ask you this one here. Get off of Myers here. Get off of Myers. With regard to Calvin Ridley versus Nick Westbrook-Akine. Because, I mean, I think we want one of those guys in our lineups. And the question is which way do you go? Do you go price savings on DraftKings and go Nick Westbrook-Akine? Because over on FanDuel, Westbrook-Akine, look at him, 4,700 over here. On FanDuel, Westbrook-Akine is 6,200. Ridley is 6,300.
Yeah.
So they're right next to each other. So do you have a preference one over the other? Is it just about the cost?
I would take whatever's cheaper. I think people are going to, I feel like people eventually are like, he can't just keep catching touchdowns and then they all just play Calvin Ridley. But if they do keep going to Westbrook-Ikhine because he's getting touchdowns, he at least has had targets lately. Before, he was really just catching passes, but 6, 5, and 8, so they are throwing to him more often, which is nice to see. So, Westbrook-Ikhine being cheaper there, his almost mirror counterpart, MVS, is right here as well. Got another touchdown pass himself. He's 46. Trey Tucker, another deep threat guy that goes downfield, had touchdown last week, 1 for 58, but had 8 targets the week before that against Denver. Maybe a little bit more risky, but certainly a good matchup against Tampa Bay. So plenty of options here. Wan'Dale Robinson, not as good of a game last week, but had been pretty heavily targeted before. So certainly a decent value tier under 5K. I wouldn't mind going Nick Westbrook-Ikhine again. Again, I would play Myers over him. I'd probably play Keenan Allen over Ridley as well at $5,600. Mooney is certainly an interesting piece here against
Mooney is. I think Thielen also, just for the lean, I think Thielen is just warranting some sort of consideration. Maybe not huge, but some.
Yep. 8 for 99 to score last week. You can't ignore. So let's see here. There's Addison, who again I don't mind going to. Dude, the Bills wide receivers are all pretty cheap here. I know Amari Cooper just hasn't really clicked yet, but he's there. Let's see. Any other? Parker Washington got a ton of targets. Any interest there?
I guess. Yeah, if you're a multi-lineup person and you want to do it, again, my big concern here with this Jacksonville Tennessee game, and what bothers me the most, because I think, we watch Tennessee's defense get shredded. We know Jacksonville's defense is terrible. Right? Tennessee's last week just got beaten up. Is that a one-time thing? The over-under in this game is 39.5, which tells me that, it's either going to be a real low-scoring game that nobody's going to be interested in, or we're kind of expecting one team to really just kind of shut down the other. And that's the question is like, do we look at this game as like being like a 27-10 sort of a situation where the Jags just don't put up any points?
Right. Yeah. We talked a little bit about it. I like Tennessee defense a lot this week, and we'll get that when we get the defense here. I can see Jacksonville just not scoring. Not scoring much of anything there. Let's see. David Moore kind of let a lot of people down last week. Still had 9 targets. It's 4K now, not 3,500. So if still very involved in the offense. Cedric Wilson's back. Interesting. Played, had a catch.
Cedric Wilson is back.
Anything else for you at wide receiver?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's, we've got the array. Like, that's the thing. Like, we've got guys, there's a lot of good mid-tier stuff out there.
Yeah.
That you can kind of work it around. Now you can, you use on DraftKings, you use Nick Westbrook-Ikhine or Marquez Valdez-Scantling as a pay down, and I would use them both in cash games as well. It's not even just about cash versus GPP. Like, I think they're both viable pay downs in cash just based on their current workload, their matchups that they've got coming up here, and what you want to do. So it's just about, little lineup construction for yourself.
Yeah. Tight end. Again, it's going to be difficult not to get Bowers in here against Tampa Bay. Aiden O'Connell is so cheap. If you're stacking it, it works so easily to get him in your lineup at 6,500. There are very few people that come into the NFL hyped up as much as this guy is, and they live up to those expectations, especially at the tight end position. Bowers has exceeded. He is, I believe he'll be the number 1 tight end drafted in fantasy next year.
I think he'll be the number 1 tight end drafted in fantasy. Somebody actually asked me that question. They were like, are you going to, is Brock Bowers worth being drafted in the first round? And I'm like, is any tight end really worth being drafted in the first round at this point?
Kelsey had some years. Obviously, Gronk had some years.
Right, but now what we need to see with the Raiders is I need to see who their quarterback's going to be next year. And I need to see, are they going to go after a number 1 wide receiver? Something that they don't have. Like, is Bowers going to be the guy? Like, let's say they get somebody of that Devontae Adams ilk.
Yeah.
And then you've got Adams and Bowers and Myers and, and a better quarterback. And maybe they get a better running back or something for it. I mean, listen, I love Bowers. I featured him in the DFS watch list. He's a target machine.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a great matchup for him here as well. What is he? 6,500 here on DraftKings. He's 8,000 on FanDuel.
Yeah.
8,000.
It's pretty elite. I mean, listen, I would say this, even if they went and got like a number one wide receiver, the quarterback thing is fair. And you want to see more touchdowns out of Bowers. I don't see a number one wide receiver coming in and impacting Bauer. I think they throw to the, I mean, Kelsey had Tyreek Hill the whole time. Like didn't really impact, what he had going on. I think he's just going to be the man there. Love him. Certainly willing to plug him in. McBride had the Seattle matchup a couple of weeks ago, had no problems with it. Another just ridiculously good target hog on this offense at 61. Jonnu Smith, what are your thoughts on him against the Jets this week?
I mean, listen, you got to love Jonnu Smith. The target share is just monstrous right now. I mean, he's leading. He's actually leading since Tua came back. He's leading that team in target percentage right now. So
yeah,
I don't think you can ignore him at all. I think that's a great spot for him. Obviously being priced up. So the question is, where are you at? Like for me, again, like I've said to you before, I'm either going to go with the chalk tight end or I'm going to pay all the way down because picking and choosing out of this shit is a huge pain in the ass.
All right. Well, where are we going to go for the spend down? It looks like Ja'Tavion Sanders is going to play this week, which is good. R.I.P. Tommy Tremble. You had him in everything that you did last week. I put him in a dartboard and gave you the hat tip. 5 for 77, paid off the 2,800. But with Ja'Tavion Sanders back, that play unfortunately not going to be there for us. We talked on the live stream this afternoon about Juwan Johnson without Taysom Hill now to cut into his share. He had 7 targets last game.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants have been the only shining light of their team this year, the top defensive team against tight ends. And they faced some good tight ends. They shut down Cade Otton. They've done well against the tight end position. Johnson's there at 34.
If Goddard is out, I like Calcaterra.
Sure.
If I don't mind Juwan Johnson, I like Chigakonkwo going up against the Jaguars. I think that's a great spot.
Finally, the targets came for him there.
Mm-hmm. I'll also tell you what, man. If Dalton Kincaid is out,
mm-hmm.
Dawson Knox kind of rings the bell a little bit for me here, just in the sense that he's not seeing like mad targets, but he'll see some targets. The Rams have been super soft against tight ends this season. I think that's a good spot potentially for him.
Agreed. Defense.
If you are playing on FanDuel,
okay,
Will Dissly.
Sure. Against Kansas City.
It's a fantastic pay down, especially if McConkey Badunk is out.
A lot of value defenses you can play this week.
Yeah.
Titans are $2,800. Again, I think they're one of my favorite defenses overall. Can definitely get there to the Saints. If you're not in on the Giants, they're $2,900. You think that goes away? We know that Geno's good for at least one interception. Cardinals here are at home, 3K, 5 sacks and a pick against Seattle last time for 11 fantasy points. They're getting after the quarterback at a ridiculous rate.
Dude, 19 sacks over the last 4 games for the Cardinals.
Yep. So 3K at home against Seattle here. Not a bad spot. So Eagles against Carolina, sure, great play, obviously, for what Eagles defense can bring to the table here. We saw that, Kirk Cousins is handing out interceptions like Halloween candy right now. You got the Vikings at 34 at home there, but spending down a defense feels like the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree.
All right, well, let's get a lineup going here. I think I'm gonna buy into this Aiden O'Connell play.
Oh, it's so grimy.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna go Aiden O'Connell. We're gonna go with Bowers. We go Tennessee defense. If I can go Tennessee defense, and then we'll go Barkley. That gives us 53.80 a play to kind of build the rest of our lineup around. We had wide receivers under that 5K.
Why don't you throw MVS and Nick Westbrook-Akine into the lineup together?
Well, I feel like we're maybe a little too risky.
Is it too risky?
Jacoby Myers. Can we get a Mike Evans on the way back? let's see, Mike Evans 72. We'll have to get a cheapy flex. We'll go Garundo at 54 here. And that gives us a 4K flex play. 4K flex play. What do we got for probably wide receivers or tight ends down here? Cheapies got David Moore. Could go David Moore. Target's been there for him. I don't hate that.
What a great play.
What? He had 9 fantasy points last week. He had 20 the week before that.
All right, that's great. That's great.
All right. Well, what do you?
He just has, you know what it is? He just doesn't have a ceiling.
All right. What if we went flex Irving instead of Mike Evans? Flex Bucky Irving. He was cheaper than Evans. That gives us a $4,600 wide receiver, which I think is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. We came all the way back to it. So, all right. Ian O'Connell, Saquon Barkley, Isaac Garundo, Nick Westbrook-Ikine, Kobe Myers, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Brock Bowers, Bucky Irving, Tennessee Titans defense. No dollars left on the board. That's your tournament play for sure. Do you have anything for us over on the FanDuel board, Howard? Anything you want?
Here you go. Ready?
Okay.
Josh Allen at quarterback.
Okay. I don't think we'll fit it, but we'll go for it. Josh Allen.
Just so you can see what the lineup looks like. You can visualize it, people.
Sure.
Naked Josh Allen, right?
Love it.
Alvin Kamara, Isaac Garundo.
Okay.
Mike Evans, Jacoby Myers, Nick Westbrook-Ikine.
Okay.
Now, you can't get him in here because it's a FanDuel only play, but Will Dissly at the tight end spot.
Okay. Well, what's his pricing?
5,100.
Okay. What's the rest of your lineup look like?
Tyrone Tracy in the flex.
Okay.
And the Arizona Cardinals defense.
Defense. Cardinals. $2,300 tight end. Can't play. Can't even fit in the lineup, but that's fine. So we'll use Hunter Bryant as our placeholder for Will Dissly. And just know that that's what we got for FanDuel. Josh Allen, Kamara, Garundo, Evans, Myers, Westbrook-Ikine, Dissly, Tracy, Cardinals defense. So got it going for everybody here. Again, we'll have the full playbook out. The watch list is out. Dartboard. Live stream on Sunday. Bender and Coop on Sunday mornings from 10 to 11 on XM. Example lineups will be out. We'll get you guys ready for Week 14 DFS. Until then, everybody, good luck. Check out the Cyber Week deal we got going on here, and we'll catch you later.